Hey everybody, this is Tatiana Moroz and welcome to the Grandma's House edition of the Tatiana Show. We're broadcasting to you live from New Jersey. You can see I have beautiful artwork provided by my grandmother, and we're broadcasting out on Liberty.me and also on Let's Talk Bitcoin. And today I'm joined with some unusual guests. We have Shaban from Spells of Genesis, and we have Erik Voorhees. Now, while I have a lot in common probably with Erik, ideologically, the whole video game thing is a little bit confusing. But one of the cool things about Bitcoin is that you get to learn about things that you don't know about. And I certainly think that the Spells of Genesis game is using Bitcoin in a really innovative way. They're also, I think that you guys are doing something with Tokenly too, right? Is that correct, Shaban?
Yeah, correct. We're using the swap bot from Tokenly, and it works pretty amazingly.
Awesome. So why don't you guys say hello to the audience, give a little bit of background for yourself. A lot of my audience already knows about Bitcoin, but some of them doesn't. So, give them a little bit of background on you, and then we can go from there.
Perfect. So thank you, Tatiana, for the invitation.
Thank you for joining us.
I'm Shaban Shaame. I'm the founder of Everdreamsoft, company founded 5 years ago, doing mobile game, basically, iPhone, Android games in general, and software in general as well. So we were pretty early in the video game industry, and in the mobile video game industry, and now we are shifting to Bitcoin because there is innovation in that field, and it's where there is a big opportunity in the market. We started to work on the blockchain, and we start thinking, why don't we put our game asset on the blockchain to allow people to have full ownership of what they purchase. Because when you purchase something in a video game, you don't really own it. So thanks to the blockchain technology, now we can shift to something where you can own your assets.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions that I have with that, but let's bring Erik in, and then we can kind of get into the nitty-gritty of it. Erik?
Yeah, so I'm Erik Voorhees. I've been involved in Bitcoin for quite a while. Started a number of Bitcoin companies, and I am currently the CEO of Shapeshift.io, which is a instant exchange for digital assets. So we help people who have one kind of digital currency or asset convert it to a different kind without having to sign up or log in or do anything complicated. We're sort of like the Google Translate of currency exchange. So I had the pleasure of meeting Shaban a couple months ago, and we are helping. Shapeshift is helping Shaban and his company with their sale of the tokens in his game. I'm quite excited about what they're doing, basically putting these digital game assets onto the blockchain. I think it's very novel, and so we're happy to help them get started with that. And it fits really well into our business model of helping people buy any kind of popular digital token. So that's what we're up to.
Yeah, we've been using Shapeshift. I'm also doing Tatiana Coin on Tokenly, and we've been testing the store, which has been working really well, and we're also doing Shapeshift, so that's kind of a cool thing. Okay, so when you talk about people getting to own their digital assets, now how did it work previously, and how does it work now?
As an example, we release Munga, who's a trading card game for 5 years. And in Munga, like in any other game, we store users' possession in the database. So when someone purchases a card or something in a game, we store that in our database. and we allow player to trade inside the game with a digital currency. We call it um, uh, silver coin and copper coin, and they can trade these assets in the game within our database. So it happens that some players started to trade those cards even outside the game for real money. So what they did is Jack contacted John and say, hey, I want to sell this card for real money. So let me send you real money over PayPal, and then let's make a transaction inside the game using a very tiny fraction of the game currency. And so it was kind of black market trading. And when something goes wrong, they just contacted our support and say, hey, this guy stole my car, stole my account. He did a trade to himself with a very small fraction of game currency. So there was trading markets inside the game. So instead of trying to stop this completely, we decided to empower it. So with the blockchain technology, you can have full ownership of your card, and then you can even trade these cards, these game assets, outside the game on the blockchain, and no one can refrain you on doing that. And what we simply do with the game, instead of having this data of who owns what on our database, we just listen to the blockchain. So the player gives us his public address, and we look at what are the items that are on this public address, and according to the tokens in this address, it will unlock cards and character and power in the game.
Do they ever get their winnings in Bitcoin? Aside from the card element, do they ever win Bitcoin for getting to the next level or anything like that?
This is something that we are thinking of in Spells of Genesis. It's not officially announced or planned, but it could be interesting for a player to be able to get some rewards. It can be rewards from a tournament or success in Bitcoin, and it can be also reward for progression. What we need to carefully do is make a difference between gambling game and non-gambling game. So basically, it's not a game where you play to win money or to get money, but it's a game where you can purchase things and this thing retain their value, and you can transfer, sell to other player. So it's something we will definitely think of.
This is, let me just jump in real quick. This is sort of a problem or a dynamic that's existed for a long time in the video game world, which is that whenever there are sort of rare items in the game that people want, people always find a way to trade them outside of the game. It's almost always against the terms of service for the game, you know, whether it's World of Warcraft or something. But if you have a magic sword in World of Warcraft that other people want, and they're willing to pay real money, people typically find a way to do that. And often is a really awkward kind of transaction, both because the form of payment, you know, it's often done with PayPal, which is always reversible, so that's prone to fraud. But also then there's no real mechanism to do it within the game very well. So what Shaban and those guys are doing is very cool. They're basically saying, look, these digital assets in the game, we will make them as real as Bitcoins are, in that they exist on the blockchain, and if you buy one, not only do you own it in the game, but you possess it as a real item. And as a real item, you can send it to other people and trade with them very easily. And I think it's going to be the genesis of a whole world of digital assets that become real things that people buy and sell and have, digital commodities. And Bitcoin sort of showed the first way that can work with the blockchain, and now all these other realms can start utilizing that technology. So I think in 10 years this is going to be really common to see, and Shaban is basically pioneering it.
Shaban, can you tell me a little bit about exactly how the game works? I mean, is it Legends of Zelda? Is it a strategy game the same way that World of Warcraft is? Who would want to play this other than guys that are hanging out in basements?
So Spells of Genesis, our new game, is what we call arcade RPG game. So it's a little bit more casual than our former game. Munga was more strategic, or a little bit more geeky. Spells of Genesis is easier. So it's an arcade game where you see enemies in the field, and you have to shoot at these enemies, a little bit like in a pool. You shoot your ball onto the enemy and try to destroy it. It's very easy, said like that, but there is some feature of strategy, because some enemies are strong against some elements. So when you shoot your balls, when you shoot your characters, your orb, you have to choose the right character that will deal the right damage to the enemy. You have to choose carefully which enemy you want to hit first, because he will have some impact on your on the gameplay. So there is literally unlimited possibility in the enemies and in the characters. So that's why it's important, and the collection aspects come into play, because you might try to collect characters that have specific powers that will help you through the game. So some character will have powers that others don't have, and you will need those specific character to finish a quest or achieve some specific thing.
But you're playing against people all around the world.
Yes, you're playing against people all around the world, and you're also playing against the computer, a little bit like Candy Crush, if I can make an analogy, where you try to beat the level and progress as much as possible. And
do you get to choose who you're going to be? I mean, can you choose somebody that kind of looks like you as an avatar, or you just assign somebody?
So there is some customization, of course. So you have your own, let's say, profile, and you can customize your avatar. And avatar are also digital assets, so you can collect also avatar and trade avatar. You have also different stuff that you can personalize in your profile. So, for example, your background page, or things that you can make on your own taste. Something we're exploring as well is allowing people to create their own content. So let's say you know how to draw, you draw really nice, or you feel like a game designer. We can imagine that you create your own character, so using one of your creations, and then you give your character some characteristic, and then you can go out and try to sell your character to other people, or you can give your character to some friends or people who will like it. Or you can also imagine to create levels, so what we call user-generated content. So you can create some game content, levels, and transform that as a token that you create. And then you're free to dispose of your token the way you like. So we can imagine to have a Tatiana level, for example, and people who own Tatiana coin can play these levels, for example.
Okay, so they'd basically have to rock really, really hard in order to do
Yeah.
it. Okay, first of all, how do you control quality? I guess maybe the answer to that would be the market. And then are other games doing stuff where you can just build stuff and then potentially, I mean, I'm very unfamiliar with open source only from Bitcoin, but it almost sounds like an open source game that people can be building additional stuff on there. Am I understanding that correctly?
It's not completely open source, since the game engine is developed internally. But what is open is what we can say level creation. So we allow within the game to create some parts that are open. So not everything is open, but part of it.
But have other games done that before? And does the financial incentive, I guess, make people want to make new levels and new characters and stuff?
I will say yes. It has been made, and people like to do it, and usually they do really nice things and creation. In many games, you can have what we call user-generated content, but it was never in the blockchain, never controlled by the blockchain, so it's always only internally in the system, and people are not making it commercially usually because it's internal in the game, and the game don't want to be a transmitter or a platform that is selling things to the end user. So,
can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
To give a little context in this industry, I saw an article a few weeks ago about a Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is a very popular computer game, and this one company, I think it was like one or two guys, they sell skins for the guns. So little, basically like designs for the guns that people have. Just completely aesthetic, totally digital, not quote unquote real at all. And they were making $10,000 a day in revenue selling these things. And this is by far, not the only outfit in town. So when these games hit millions of people, it doesn't take a large percentage spending too much money before the numbers start to get really significant. And this is in the world where buying those skins, they're not really digital assets in the way that a Bitcoin is. And now with what Shaban is doing, game assets can exist on the blockchain. So imagine how much more demand there would be for special skins for weapons if you could transfer those skins to other people. You would know exactly how many of those skins existed, and it was mathematically provable. You knew exactly how scarce it was, and then you could transfer these things between games. I think there's a lot of potential here.
I think I'm beginning to understand why people care about this. Definitely sounds really compelling. Could somebody use one of their items in a different game if other games started using this as a model? Let's say a different game, completely different company, was also using, what would they use? Would they use Counterparty? Would they use Bitcoin? Would they be able to use their item from Spells of Genesis in their Darth Vader game or whatever if they built it on Ethereum? I mean, where do those things cross over? And actually, would Shapeshift help with that?
Well, actually, I just kind of thought of something. Not only can people use the items in Shaban's game in other games by Shaban, but even without his permission, other game developers can create games that people can use those assets in, and Shaban has zero control over it because they are assets on the Counterparty blockchain. Right?
Why are
So
you giving these people this idea? You're ruining the game for Shaban.
well, it does. No, it makes those items worth more. Basically, if some item in Shaban's game becomes really popular and worth a lot, some other company can make a game that supports that asset as well, and now people can transfer that thing over to that company and vice versa. So and Shaban can't control that. That's what makes these things real assets, is that once someone possesses them, they have full authority to hold it, to destroy it, to send it to someone else anywhere in the world for any purpose whatsoever. So I think all sorts of really interesting uses are going to come out of it.
Wouldn't that cut Shaban out of it, and wouldn't he be mad? What if I made my own sword shaped like a guitar on Shaban's game, which of course I'm capable of doing, and then I went to somewhere else, I'd be A, exiting the game, and then B, he wouldn't make any money off of it because I had created my own item. I mean, that's probably good for the user, but not good for the game developer. Or am I looking at that wrong?
That's a very mercantilist view, Tatiana. Basically, if people are taking items from Shaban's game and going to other games to play with them, if Shaban's making good games, other people are going to bring those assets over to his game as well. So you can think of it sort of like free trade, right? Ultimately, it should be a net benefit to everyone that's making useful, interesting entertainment. And I think, a lot of the items will get sold by the creator, and once they're sold, the money from the creation and sale has already been made. So it doesn't necessarily even matter if the special sword leaves Shaban's game and goes somewhere else. And indeed, if that sword leaves Shaban's game, now the ones that remain in that universe have become more valuable there, right? So there's a whole supply and demand aspect to this thing.
Yes, and I guess there is something very interesting here behind your question. We can imagine in the future IP owner, let's say Harry Potter, for example. You can imagine someone, the IP owner, issuing, I don't know, 1,000 Harry Potter character as a token. And people who use the token might use the character in a game. For example, a game designer can say, okay, I accept this character and I will put it in my game. And actually, the one who makes the money is the IP owner because he sold the IP of the character Harry Potter, and the game designer just used this character, this IP, and he didn't make money out of the character itself. So I can imagine me as an IP owner issuing license to my character to be used in several different game or product or whatsoever.
What if they use that character for evil? Something that's completely antithetical to Harry Potter. Would the IP owner even have any control over that?
That's a pretty good question. As it's unseen yet, it's hard to say. But we can imagine that the IP owner put a set of rules where if you're using the image, related to the character, you have to comply to a certain set of rules. But it's a completely new ground here, and everything has to be built. But this is the doors that those digital assets opens, actually.
Yeah, actually, if you combine this concept with the smart contracts on something like Ethereum, and with prediction markets like Augur, you can actually basically create terms of use for digital assets. And if someone uses that asset and breaks certain terms, if the community is voting on that and observing it, like through Augur or through the prediction market, that can all be enforced through contracts. And someone who bought an asset and violated its terms could then lose the asset according to the contract's terms. Very sci-fi stuff and probably a little ways away, but totally possible now with the platforms that are getting built.
So, Erik, your interest in this is that if you get in on the early game with this, Shapeshift could make a killing, right? I would think so, because is anybody else helping to facilitate these, I don't know what you would call them. I don't even know. Like sale of avatars? What are they? Tokens? I mean, I don't even know what they are. What are they?
I like calling them digital assets, but it's not a super graceful term. But yeah, Shapeshift is trying to be the easy exchange for digital assets. So we benefit when there are more digital assets and when they're used in a wider array of things. So if the only digital asset in the world is Bitcoin that people use for money, Shapeshift doesn't really serve a purpose. But if there are dozens of digital assets of all different kinds, some we can conceive of today and many that we can't even conceive of, people want to trade those things, and so Shapeshift has a good place for that. So something like bit crystals and the specific cards in Spells of Genesis, that's great for our platform because that shows that not only can people trade currencies on blockchains, but now they can actually trade game items. And there will be many more branches of this technology that grow as well.
What other gamification through Bitcoin has been in the community? I know my friend Kingsley, he has Leetcoin, which he's been working on for a while. How do you differentiate what you guys are doing with the other projects? And are there ways that you guys can play nice together, or how does that work?
You mean Shapeshift or?
No, I mean other products that are using Bitcoin in the game. For example, Leetcoin I couldn't even speak to, but for example, there's something called Bitlanders, which used to be the old Film Annex, and it's basically a social media platform where for answering questions or doing more posts or engaging, you're basically earning Bitcoin. Are there other projects similar to Bitlanders? I mean, Bitlanders focuses on giving money to charity as well. So while it's a for-profit, there's a nonprofit element of it. But are there other people using Bitcoin in games, and how is it different from what you guys are doing?
In this specific field, there is not much projects, but there are several work around digital world for RPGs, MMORPGs, where you can find Bitcoin, you can earn Bitcoin. There are some initiatives. If I'm correct, there is no official company that is registered who are working on such project. So maybe I'm wrong, but I think we are the only company, incorporated company, who do games using the blockchain. There is a lot of good ideas out there. And the very interesting fact in using the blockchain is that it's easy to make partnership. You can say, hey, you're building a completely different game where you can purchase, I don't know, a house in your specific game, and we can say, hey, we can reuse this, we make a partnership, we reuse this same asset in Spells of Genesis. So then we act as a complement. So when you win something in game A, you can unlock something on Spells of Genesis, for example. So so far, all initiative, all games are very different, and there is no games that are close to Spells of Genesis. But in long term, what I want to develop is to go to a platform, to be more like a platform where people can digitalize or blockchainize, tokenize their game asset, and being able to bring the gap between the different game and the different assets you can own in game, and make a platform where you can share with other game certain assets that would be usable in different ones.
Okay, so one of the things about Bitcoin that I didn't realize was how much control people who work on computers actually have over the world. I made friends with this hacker guy, and he started telling me all the stuff that they have access to and what exactly they're working on. And it seems like they own the world. One of the things that I was also thinking about when you're talking about this game is, wouldn't this be a great way to onboard people into Bitcoin? But then I wonder what the population is of gamers to Bitcoin users, and I would think that the gamers would already be kind of into Bitcoin anyway. Do you have any kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's probably a few million Bitcoiners around the world, 1 to 5 million. And the number of gamers, 100 million, maybe more than that.
So that would be good, right? If they all started getting into it in this way, wouldn't that help with mass adoption?
Yeah, I think a pretty small percentage of people who play video games are familiar with Bitcoin or involved in any way. It's a far, far larger market. And so if these kind of initiatives like what Shaban is doing help people learn about essentially digital assets, which I think it inevitably will, these people are already used to understanding that an item can have real value even though it's digital. So it's more just about the interface that they start to understand and learning what an address is that you send a transaction to, and getting comfortable with that side of things. And absolutely, that'll bring millions and millions of people into the Bitcoin world.
Yeah, I agree. Within our community, Munga players, even it's a hardcore community, some have a very hard time understanding Bitcoin. And so far, the tools that we have are a little bit complex, even for people who are used to computers. And one of our mission is also to simplify the experience for the user. So within Spells of Genesis, it will be completely transparent for the user when he starts the learning curve and all these assets. Instead of viewing a wallet with complicated key or questioning where's my private key, where's my public key. They just open the game and see their profile and see their assets and have a button to press to send a card to a friend, for example, without having to understand this public and private key. So this is a way where we want to head, because all those gamers, they are not like we are early adopters, passionate by the technology itself. They are interested in the use, and they don't care about how the technology works. They just want to own their asset and trade it. So there is a big work to be done in order to simplify this whole experience. And Shapeshift, if we really love to work with Shapeshift, because their interface and the way they handle conversion looks very easy and usable for the wide public.
Do these tokens live in a Tokenly, the digital assets being created, do they live in the Tokenly wallet? Do they live in Spells of Genesis, or in a form of a Tokenly wallet in the Spells of Genesis thing? And then the second part is, if Tokenly is being used for at least part of this whole process, wouldn't those tokens also, or the digital assets, be built on Counterparty, sort of like anything else, almost like Bitcoin, Counterparty, Spells of Genesis, digital assets, but all along that stream and then being related to Counterparty?
Yes, from a user point of view, it will be transparent. So like Tokenly, the wallet will be inside the game directly.
But it's your wallet. Like, could you send Bitcoins out of your wallet or no? And
yes,
is it in-house?
Yes. It's just a counterparty. It's a layer of interface on top of Counterparty Wallet. So this is the way we envision it is to have a layer of interface, of simplification, a little bit like Tokenly Wallet does, on top of Counterparty. So instead of viewing your asset as a name, for example, a list of asset names, you see your asset as cards. So if you have 10 cards, instead of viewing their card name, you see their little picture of the card. And if you want to send a card to someone, you'll be prompted to their Spells of Genesis username or public address. But all this complexity will be tried to be hidden from the user, while the power user can use the same counter wallet or Bitcoin wallet or the way he used to do the trading already.
Yeah,
okay, so they can start trading from there too if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So it's like you have a blockchain.info wallet or a Tokenly info or a counter wallet. It wouldn't be a blockchain.info because that wouldn't hold counterparty tokens, but it would be a counterparty wallet of some sort that you guys built yourself on top of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just an interface, actually. It works the same.
And people are able to play the game now, right?
So for Spells of Genesis, we have a pre-alpha demo that people can try by registering on the website. For Munga, our previous game, it's playable for years now, and we just started connected Munga to the blockchain. So assets that you purchase for Spells of Genesis are playable in two different games, the two games that we are publishing.
Can you briefly walk me through what your campaign, putting it together looked like? What were some of the challenges that you guys did? What do you think were some of the good decisions that you've made and some of the bad? What would you have changed about it?
We do something in the campaign is more than giving Bit Crystal with the game currency that we're selling during our token sale. We are giving some other gifts that are pretty interesting, like the partnership, the partner ranks. Will allow people participating in the token sale to achieve a lifetime rank that open stores to be like resellers. So basically, a partner can act like a reseller, and he will have access to some cards or game assets that we are not selling to the wide public. And this way, he will be able to do his own trade, and then he will push and promote his shop, and ultimately it will benefit for Spells of Genesis in general, because we're using the common power, the group power, to promote the game. So it's a good deal for them because they have access to assets that other people don't have, and they can resell and make some margin on that. A little bit like real in different location to push and promote their product. So this is something interesting we implemented in the token sale. Also, what are the bad things? What are the bad things, or what we could have done better?
Yeah, like what challenges did you guys find out about? Because I know when I made Tatiana Coin, it was just one dead body under another that I just kept finding under a rock. You know, there were a lot of things that I didn't see coming. So I guess that's the question to clarify.
So there was one very important thing, very important decision was, are we accepting fiat currency, the US dollar, PayPal, whatever? Because our user base, our fans who are playing Munga, they're used to use PayPal and the regular thing, and we decided not to accept this, even that it cuts us from our a big user base who don't own Bitcoin and who don't want to take time to look at it. So this is a very major difficulty, because we kind of splitted our user base and say, okay, this is only for people who want to use Bitcoin. And the legal framework refrain us to accept fiat currency, since digital assets status is unclear. So we prefer to play safe and not accept fiat currency. So this is one of the big challenge that we have in the digital world, how we can bring people who are not familiar with crypto into a project that might interest them.
Yeah, that's been a big challenge to me, and I think that one of the cool things would be to integrate the ability to buy Bitcoin for fiat. I mean, there's the 2 or 3 day turnaround time, but I don't know if you guys are familiar with the project Lidera. I learned about that at Chicago Inside Bitcoins, and what they're doing is that they're allowing people, for example, if somebody wanted to buy Tatiana Coin and they didn't, maybe they can figure out how to use a Tokenly wallet, but right now I have to say, okay, well, go to Coinbase, give them your firstborn, and then in 3 days you might get some Bitcoin. So, I mean, it's a torturous process they're not going to remember, and that's been a big impedance to me as well. And then the other option that we came across with was, allowing them to buy a certain limited number of coins, and if they do something messed up, well, whatever. I mean, it's Tatiana Coin. I have a finite amount of them, but it's not like there's 2 of them left and I'm just holding on to them for dear life. So, I guess I could take that risk. But since you guys are doing something on such a higher scale, is that why you weren't able to do it? Because you were worried about people gaming the system, maybe sending you PayPal and then reversing it type thing?
Yes, there is a lot of issues using PayPal, the reverse thing. And also legally, in Switzerland, if you are selling Bitcoin for fiat, you are a money transmitter, and you have to apply to license, and it's not our core business, being money transmitter. So we didn't want to focus on that, and as it's for the crowd sale, we're targeting early adopters or people who are who are able to understand the potential of it. So we decided to go just Bitcoin because those people understand it pretty well already. But when it will come to the public release, product release, we will definitely work in partnership with other company who can simplify the process for the user. We want always to have something transparent. So if they need some Bitcoin or need some digital asset for them, should be very simple they just put their credit card or do the process they are used to, and they receive the asset without having to think too much and to understand too much about how a wallet works. And this is the big challenge ahead of us.
Yeah, I think that that's really where things start to become really stressful and annoying, almost to the point where I don't even know how people can manage to try and do businesses in Bitcoin in the first place. Obviously, Shapeshift, you guys were one of the first people to say, we're not going to New York, screw this, which I actually thought was a really great way to do it. I know that some people will be able to do it, but when I sat in on an explanation of BitLicense, there was an attorney, and any question that anybody had for him, he had no answers to. And imagine you're paying this guy $500 an hour, and every response that he tells you is, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. It's actually really a big turnoff, just like logically, you know? And I can only imagine how terrifying it would be, genuinely, as a business to try and work in New York, because you really have no idea what they're going to try and do to you. Now, you guys are not based in New York, so from what I understand, though, they can still, if you were, you know, let's say people are playing Cells of Genesis and you're registered in another country, with a regular game, with a regular company that would somehow accidentally do business in New York, they also want them to get a license, which is bananas, because what, every single Bitcoin company in the world has to go to New York and pay $5,000 just for the application, and then $30, $50, $100,000 minimum for their attorney fees. That's bananas. So how are you guys dealing with that? Like, what if somebody wants to play Spells of Genesis and they're on 34th Street? What happens?
So far, to tell the truth, is undetermined. We'll first thing first, we'll see how other company manage, how this thing is going on. Since it's not an American company, we will have less trouble than people that are on operating directly in the US. So we are gonna wait and see on this specific problem, see how people deal with that, and try to find a solution. And the worst solution will be a ban a New York citizen to play Spells of Genesis.
Erik, what do you have to say about all that stuff? And is this something that Shapeshift needs to worry about? I feel like Shapeshift does a lot of things that are kind of wild, which is why I like it. But how do you manage the risk of the regulators torturing you to death?
Well, yeah, I mean, an entrepreneur in the Bitcoin world has to be comfortable stepping into the legal unknown, because even if you want to be, a full statist and comply with every silly rule that a bureaucrat throws at you, even when you go to the lawyers, they can't always tell you. And as you said, they often will just give you I don't know. And if you really push them, they'll say, well, then you can't do it. So there's this huge chilling effect that regulators have, and I don't think they quite realize it. A regulator probably understands that if they write rules against something, it chills that something. But they don't realize that just by discussing an industry and potentially regulating it in some way, there's a huge amount of cost that goes into every business that's looking in that industry. Just talking to lawyers or just trying to figure out what their own internal policies are going to be. So yeah, it sucks. The fact that a Swiss company like Everdreamsoft has to be thinking about New York State financial regulations when they are just building a video game that people play for entertainment. The fact that they have to think about that is very indicative of how screwed up I think the U.S. regulatory system is. And who knows how it'll turn out. But ultimately, I think New Yorkers are going to be sort of a second-class citizens for a while the crypto innovation moves on without them.
Well, I think it's going to be pretty embarrassing. You know, you bring up a good point. I mean, does he now have to worry about every single country in the world being, the state of New York? But do you have to be worried, okay, well, in France, are they going to come and arrest me next time I go over to the Eiffel Tower? Or if you go to Hong Kong, are you going to have problems there? I mean, does a company, because they work in crypto, now have to be considerate of every single regulation in every single place on earth? I mean, that's ridiculous. So wouldn't New York be setting a completely, frankly, stupid standard?
Yeah, wisdom is not the policy by which they figure out their course of action, though.
Don't they get that though? I mean, this is.
No, they're statists. They're a bunch of statists. They think that the world runs because of the rules that they have penned, and they don't realize that the things they do hold back an entire industry from building really cool stuff. Stuff that is, everything from entertainment to seriously financially important to millions of people around the world. So yeah, I mean, it's terrible, and I think Bitcoin and blockchain technology in general raises so many interesting questions that are difficult for regulators to handle. Everything from jurisdiction to what constitutes money. It raises so many of these interesting questions that it's going to force a very important dialogue to happen, not only in the U.S. but around the world. And I expect a long struggle. I mean, this is sort of going to be a defining battle of our generation, is trying to figure out if people have the right to transact with each other free of censorship, free of coercion, free of surveillance, or not. And every regulator would prefer the latter. So it's really going to be about people kind of waking up and realizing that there's some really amazing technology sitting right outside their door, and all they need to do is kind of stand up and start using it. But of course, be comfortable with a little bit of legal uncertainty.
Yeah, but that legal uncertainty can be utilized to throw people in jail for having unpopular political speech.
Yeah.
I think that would be a reason that I would be concerned. When you talk about people being able to make money off of spells of Genesis in terms of having access to the store and being able to get wholesale prices, and then they can make money on top of it, that's so innovative and really awesome. I really had my doubts about this whole video game thing, but you guys are luring me in. But wouldn't the SEC and whatever other torture regimes want to say, well, you can't do that because, I would think that you're just opening yourself up to a whole bunch of crap.
Well, nothing worth doing is easy.
Man, but the thing is that what's interesting about it is that, as an investor, you say, okay, well, I can make an investment in something like a Bitcoin company of any kind, really, or I can invest in something else that may also have the same, like growth potential, whatever, that just doesn't have the risk associated with it, and that just seems really sad. I wonder what is the thought process. Okay, obviously, I don't know how Shaban is, but Erik and I are kind of on the freedom team, right? So aside from the typical label of saying, oh, well, they're statists, they're stupid, that's not a really good way to relate with people and to understand their motivations. I think that understanding their motivation is an important component for breaking down that wall between the two people. And I think that they think that they're doing a good thing, but is it also possible that they're all evil? Like, what percentage of them is evil and completely blind to the fact that they're doing something bad? Where does that break down in you guys' mind?
I don't think they're evil. I don't think the average regulator is evil. They think that they're doing good things. They think that they're helping the world. They think that they're making it safer and better and more fair and all sorts of.
Have they just been propagandized?
No, they're just wrong. People are wrong about all sorts of things. I'm sure I'm wrong about some things. The difference, of course, is that the things I'm wrong about I don't force upon other people, whereas the regulator does. But these these people are generally good people. They think that it's okay to force other people to do what they want. They think it's okay to use coercion to compel their opinions upon other people. How did they grow up that way? Because their parents thought that too. Because most people grow up in public education, and you salute the flag, and you learn that markets fail and regulators save them, and you learn all this propaganda that's not governed by some evil group that's causing this conspiracy.
I don't know about that.
It's like a mental disease that society has. Just as there have been lots of kind of social diseases over time. People think things that are wrong, and at times those are very popular beliefs. And I like to call the fight for Bitcoin is the separation of money and state, and obviously that refers to the separation of church and state. That was more controversial than what we're trying to do now. The idea that the state should not govern how people have their religious beliefs. That was a hard-won battle, and the average people back in those days, they believed in the structure at the time, and so it took society a long time to move away from that. It's people are not going to move away from the state control of financial systems very easily either. But for the same reason that people have the right to be free in their religion, they ought to be free in their transactions and their finances as well.
I agree with everything that you said, except that, and I'm not genuinely trying to be conspiratorial, I feel like that's a way to turn people off, but that agenda is set by somebody. It's not like everybody just went to school and they're like, I don't know, what should we do? Maybe we could salute the flag. That's a great idea, Bob. And then they start saluting. I mean, somebody came up with that as part of the, process, right? And I think that that's really where we run into issues, because we have this massive ability to tell people what to think, whereas before people were segregated, they barely had telephones, much less the internet. So now it's almost like a massive melding of the minds into whatever X person or X group of people says that they should be thinking about.
Well, just as people that understand markets, I think, understand the concept of spontaneous order, where markets aren't based on some central entity guiding them toward producing things that are useful. It's a spontaneous process. And in the same way that societies have spontaneous order develop in certain ways, they absolutely have spontaneous disorder. Concepts and dynamics that spontaneously happen that aren't necessarily good. And I think the desire to control other people is one of those, and causes the statism that we all have to deal with.
So how do you guys sleep at night, with just really good lawyers, or you think about the positive stuff that could potentially come out of this?
I think what it drives is we cannot be driven by fear. Being an entrepreneur is like jumping into the nowhere. So it's a part of the fun, because innovators take risk, and at some points we have to jump into the thing.
Yeah, I've got plenty of lawyers, of course, but I don't sleep well at night because of the lawyers. I sleep well at night because I know that I'm doing something important. And even if it's scary, and even if the state might like to hurt me and take my stuff and ruin my days, I hope to have lived a life that I can look back on and say, yeah, I built things that were useful to people, and I didn't cower in fear at the government that was in front of me.
I like you guys' attitude. I think that's good. I recently started a business, Crypto Media Hub, and then, Tatiana Coin was totally weird. And it's really remarkable to me just how many roadblocks there are because of the state in terms of expenses for your company and everything like that. So that's been I don't know, I feel like people out there should be doing more entrepreneurship, but it is really, really difficult, and unnecessarily so. Like, I think that there are already inherent things in that are super difficult, but then to also have that additional component, which easily makes up 30% of your torture that you have to deal with. So I don't know. It's just hard. I admire what you guys are trying to do, and I think that it's really cool. Real quick, what do y'all think about this whole XT debacle?
Oh, we're not allowed to talk about that.
Really? Oh, why? Because everybody else is talking about it 24/7?
No, because it's censored. Didn't you get the memo?
No, I didn't. No.
Oh,
Wait, are you serious?
You're going to be in trouble. You're going to be
gosh.
in trouble.
So Joshi's coming to get me. So is Bitcoin doomed? I guess that's my question.
No, of course Bitcoin isn't doomed. I'm pretty much of the opinion that there are a lot of decent paths forward regarding the block size debate. I don't know that any of them are terminally bad. They will change and shape the way that Bitcoin is used, but none of them kill Bitcoin. So it's one of many growing pains that Bitcoin has to face and get through, and I see no reason why it won't.
I did not appreciate the price drop, for the record, at all. Not at all.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
Because it's been such a brutal couple of years with the price. I mean, some people are like, who cares about the price? Like, I do. I need money.
I care about the price too. Yeah, I care
I don't
about the
get those people. Those people are snobs. I don't listen to those people. When they say that, I'm like, forget it. I'm not listening to you at all about anything anymore. But,
it's
I
good
mean,
to
I would
care
like
about
to see
the
it go
price.
up.
Yeah,
Well,
ultimately, people just need to take a long-term view of it, right? I mean, Bitcoin is not something that happens in a year or in 5 years. It is it's a technology that completely changes the world, and that's something that happens, in a decade or two. And if you have your time horizon as more than just several months or a year, Bitcoin's still doing tremendously well. It has been the best performing asset since it started. There's nothing else that has achieved the returns that Bitcoin has since its foundation. And even though it goes up and crashes and causes a lot of misery for the people who buy at the wrong times, as long as you're buying because you understand what it is, it is a piece of a technology that is likely going to change the world. But there are tons of risks, and it's not for the faint of heart.
I totally agree with that. I'm never anti-Bitcoin, but I definitely can get grumpy when the price goes down, especially when people are asking me, hey, what's the price of Bitcoin? And I have to tell them, and then they're like, oh, Bitcoin must be screwed. And I have to explain to them, no, it's not. Trust me, relax, simmer down. And then, we had all this stuff with the markets the past couple days, crashing and burning to the ground, and I guess the gold price is down, which is arguably manipulated and stuff, but I mean, maybe that would do good for Bitcoin. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Well, all financial assets move around. There's no such thing as stability in prices. It's just a question of to what extent something is volatile, and everyone should expect something like Bitcoin to be volatile for a while. As always, people should not put their life savings into Bitcoin if they can't afford to lose it.
Now you tell me.
I've been saying that forever. You know that message. That's an important one.
But for example, for our token sale, it changes the games a lot according to the price. It's a huge difference, and the whole strategy and the whole way I will need to allocate my resources will really it changing with the price. So it makes me a little bit grumpy as well.
Okay, good. Well, we can be grumpy together. So are you guys coming to any conferences coming up, or what's the plan? When is the sale over? How is that running, Shaban?
So it's over next Friday, the 4th, or the 3th. I'm not completely sure, but next week it's over. And after the sale, we're gonna distribute the bit crystals to everyone, and the other gifts like the lifetime ranks and limited edition cards and so on. So if you want to participate, it's not too late. You have 1 week to go. I think some people are focusing on the cards rewards, like the Satoshi. I think the the partner ranks are very interesting because it opens access to different shops, to the resellers, and that's exciting. I think it's exciting opportunity on participating to this token sale.
Price notwithstanding, how much have you raised so far?
850 Bitcoin.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's quite a bit. And then when would the game actually be launching? When am I basically going to get to create my own Tatiana avatar and play a video game for the first time in 20 years?
So in December, you're gonna have a
For
good
Christmas.
yeah, you're gonna have a good preview, and the final polished product will be beginning of next summer.
Okay, cool. I think I could wait that long. What about you, Erik? Are you going to play Spells of Genesis?
Hell yeah. Yeah, we actually have there's a shapeshift card. So there's a game asset that Shaban was nice enough to create for us. That's the shapeshift. It's called Shapeshift Wanderer, and it's like a special card in the game. So
I want one of those.
yeah, like there's all sorts of fun stuff that can be done. And so there's only ever going to be 1,000 of these cards, and we've been selling some of them on the site, and they give special powers within the game. And some people will buy them to play them in the game, but they are real financial assets, and so other people buy them just to speculate or to trade later on if they believe the value will be higher or lower. So yeah, it's very interesting. I feel like there should be some more, doctorate theses written about these kind of things in business schools and all that.
I actually think it's much more compelling than I thought it was going to be. It's actually pretty big deal. I'd like to say to all the people that are listening that are going to be playing Spells of Genesis, please consider perhaps making a card about me. And here's the secret power, right? I would go up to people and I would sing, and then they would kind of fall asleep, and then you could sneak past them to the next level, kind of like a siren.
Oh, brilliant.
Just putting it out there. I mean, people are thinking about it. You can't have this game only be for guys. You have to have more girls in the game. Do you think a lot of the people that are playing, what percentage are guys that are interested in this, and what percentage are women?
We have 15% of a woman in
that's not so bad.
the base. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, Shaban, are you speaking at any conferences anytime soon?
Nothing decided yet.
Okay, well, I hope to see you sometime and meet you in person. How about you, Erik? What's up on the agenda for you?
Just working on Shapeshift. No big travel plans in the near future, so just got to keep building.
Is there anything new and exciting about Shapeshift that's coming up? I feel like the functionality is really awesome and really straightforward, but are there any kind of new developments that you guys are planning? You don't have to tell me if it's secret, but
we had an awesome idea last week that's going to totally revolutionize the world, but I definitely cannot talk about it right now.
Is it true? Is that a true thing?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I have something to look forward to besides the price going up?
Yeah, but Ben Losky called and said we can't do it, so sorry, world, you won't get to have it anymore.
He's so annoying. He's always breaking up the party. He's like when your parents come home. That's what Ben Losky is.
Yeah, except I actually love my parents, and they helped my life quite a bit, and he's just imposing his will upon everyone who is not his progeny.
Oh, well, yeah. Screw that guy then.
Yeah,
Ben Losky, you're awesome. Don't worry. I definitely like you in case you ever...
He's not like parents at all. He's not like parents at all.
That's funny. All right. Well, listen, guys. This has been very cool. Tell me where people can find out more about your stuff. Shaban, where can people buy these SOG coins? I was like, what is this SOG thing? It means Spells of Genesis if people don't know. Oh, and we need a magic word, too. So maybe, Shaban, you want to make up the magic word and then tell us where they can get their access to their revolutionary new game?
Yes. So magic code. Magic codes.
Magic word. I've gotten a whole bunch of BS from the LTV audience for not being clear. I said secret word. They're like, it's not the secret word. It's the magic word. So just make sure you don't piss them off, because otherwise you're not going to win.
Magic token. is a good word.
Magic token. 2 words for the foreigners is it's MAGIC space TOKEN. Erik, wait, no, Shaban, where can they go? Where can they get these tokens?
We are building some magic tokens, and using this in the token sale page will give discount on the bit crystal, and also offers some magic tokens of our own, especially for people who triggered this magic word. And
So what's the website?
It's on bitcrystals.com, www.bitcrystals.com. Otherwise, all information is also findable on spellsofgenesis.com.
Very cool. That's awesome. And Erik, what about you? Where can people find Shapeshift and find out more about what you're doing?
Shapeshift.io is our URL. And on Wednesday, in 2 days, we are releasing another 25 of the special Shapeshift Spells of Genesis cards. So they tend to go very quickly. We haven't released what time we're going to put them up yet, but if you subscribe to our newsletter, we will definitely tell you, and just watch our tweets. So Wednesday, Shapeshift.io, you can buy these cards with any kind of cryptocurrency, and it will absolutely make your day.
Can I use Tatiana coin to buy them?
No, not yet. We don't have every
coin,
digital
really?
asset. All right, you got me.
False representation. I'm going to Lasky.
Oh crap! All right. Well, we'll get Tatiana coin up there, and then you can buy it.
I hope so. This has been so fun, guys. I genuinely didn't know how it was going to go, but I definitely want to try the game really soon. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to Liberty.me crew for always being so kind and helping me set this up and supporting all of this stuff. Let's Talk Bitcoin audience, y'all are my homies. I hope to get this episode up by Wednesday, especially for that specific promotion, but if they don't get it, please don't hurt me. Check me out at TatianaMoroz.com. You can find out about Tatiana Coin there, or if you need advertising or marketing or PR for Bitcoin, go to CryptoMediaHub.com. We will be back next week on Monday night at 9 p.m. live. I don't know who our guest is going to be. I'm vaguely considering taking off for the summer, but I'll try not to be lazy and bring you guys some good stuff. As always, thank you very much for listening, and thanks very much to our guests. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Peace out, everyone. Oh, and also more episodes are found on letstalkbitcoin.com in the archives on my blog, and also at liberty.me. So all of the old episodes, you can catch up on that too. Thanks, everyone. Peace out. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.